You've just unveiled your vision for DVSA. Tell us what your plans are.
Sure. We've unveiled our vision for 2030. What it doesn't do is give you lots of specific milestones. What we've tried to do is to set out a broad brush direction of travel, which I think is important. And importantly, we've changed our mission statement so that now it's keep Britain moving safely and sustainably. And for me, that signals that we want to do more about sustainability in the future, and clearly that's going to be a big part of what we're about. But equally, I've got Keep Britain Moving, because I want to recognise that as an agency, we're there to facilitate the industry in doing its great contribution to the UK economy and to being productive across the UK. And that's as important to us. Clearly, safely is still in there. We are a road safety agency. It runs through us. That's not going anywhere, but we've widened it, and that is an important step for me.
So what would you say are the main changes then? You talked a little bit about that change,
Yeah.
But what would you say are the main changes in the DVSA vision up to 2030?
Sure. I draw attention to a few things. Clearly, sustainability is in there. The second one for me is a focus on education, advice and guidance. And I think, I said it on the main stage, but the advent of digital communication, I think, and I know the RHA does a lot of this, I think we've got a good reach or an ability to be able to get out and influence from the network that we have and the audience we have. And so I would like us to do education and advice in a more focused way than we have before. And for me, that's about making sure that the products we issue are accessible to people. You don't have to go to paragraph 3, subsection 2 to quote something, but it's in a good format that people can interact with and is easy to use. That's vital, but it's also about making sure that we try to do the most we can with prevention and making sure that we're getting messages out there. So an example is, I gave it there, that for enforcement, when you're pulled in at the side of the road, how can we help the drivers to do it better next time so that they don't end up with a prohibition? Or what advice and guidance can we give at that point to be helpful and to try to prevent people doing non-compliant things in future? So education advice is big. And the third one I'll say is about partnership working and focusing on customers. And for me, that is just a really important part. We can do so much more if we work with other people and we try and find that common cause and that shared goal. So we're kind of open for collaboration. And also a focus on the customer, because for us, although we're a public service, we're a monopoly, but actually if we get it right and we focus on customers, I think it's really important and can help do a better job.
Well, it's great to hear you say that, and I think many hauliers out there will welcome your words. But there is a fear factor, and there's no doubt that when you say DVSA, to some people it brings a chill down their spine. What can you do to stop people being so frightened of you?
Well, my first step was talking about it. So I've actually, said it out loud. I said it on the stage there. Part of it is working with organisations such as RHA, LUK, and I think where people are a bit afraid to talk to us directly, having an intermediary is often a very good way. There's something for me also about, for us, getting out and being in industry and looking for opportunities to go and understand how it feels and to experience it. Because I think, if you're making ivory tower policy, not that we would ever do this, but if you were without really practically understanding the industry, it means there can be a gap there when people try to implement it. They don't know how to do it right because they can't relate to it. So I think us getting out there and learning and making sure we're really got our hands dirty is important. And I think listening is really key. I'll give you an example. Hear about, I don't know, if an MOT test goes, or an annual test goes the wrong way, people will be afraid to say, hang on a minute, was that right? Because there might be repercussions. But we've set up things like a sort of operator forums where operators can come forward and say, actually, can we talk about that one? And then we can say, okay, maybe in that case we didn't interpret our own regulations right, or maybe we could make this a bit clearer, and then we could learn for the future. So it's about being open to the conversation so that we can get better and we can learn together.
I think one of the things that has always struck us about you, Loveday, is that that openness and that sense of collaboration with the industry. But what the feedback we sometimes get from members, and I was at one of our regional councils yesterday, was that actually on the ground the person involved in the conversation with the driver, for example, by the roadside, is not as sympathetic or as collaborative as what you describe. So there is this mismatch between a managerial executive vision of collaboration and openness and we're here to help versus over rigid enforcement of rules that make your organization seem very officious. How would you answer that issue?
Can I give an example a little bit from the driving test actually, which is not directly relevant, but it's a similar thing, which is that if you ask people who pass their driving test what their customer experience is of DVSA and how they like us, 80-90%. If you ask someone who's just failed their driving test, the results 20% or lower. So there is always that. If we've pulled your vehicle over and we found a fault with it or we prohibit it, you're going to be a bit grumpy with us and therefore you're going to have the attitude that maybe we've been unreasonable. So just that's out there, that's a fact. But within that, I think what you do have a right to expect from all of our people is to be treated professionally, to be treated with respect, to be told what's happening. Actually, I'm sorry we're pulling you in. It's going to take about 20 minutes. We're going to do this check so that you know what's happening. Sometimes you might have someone who's at this level and the driver's up in the cab and we're not making eye contact. We're not doing that. So the thing that we're working with on our enforcement colleagues is to just make sure that that sense of professionalism and courteousness is there, even if, as they will sometimes have to do, they're having to do difficult things that the driver or operator may find unpalatable.
What do you think is your biggest challenge in delivering this vision today?
I think there are a number of challenges. I think for me, I'm clearly on driving test. We haven't recovered driving tests. So whenever you see DVSA in the news, it's, where are we with availability for driving tests? I would love that to be fixed and over with so that wasn't what people concentrated on and it wasn't what we had to focus on. So that would be good. We're finding overall attracting people in the industry very difficult at the moment because of kind of the buoyant labour market that there is. I know industry struggles in the same way. And I do worry about the transition to different skills where we're going to be looking for automotive and software type engineering skills, how attractive government as a whole is going to prove in an increasingly buoyant market. So there's a kind of labour market conditions thing. And I think, they're the main things. And I think the other bit is about how we're connecting ourselves technologically in with the movers and shakers. It's great to hear some of the stuff from the platform today about what's happening, what the big hauliers are doing, what the big logistics companies are doing. And I want to make sure that we're in all the right conversations. We're never going to be out ahead because we don't have the money and the resources to do it. But I want us to be right there in the front so that we are helping to get the right regulation and the right testing framework. And I just worry sometimes that we're not in the right conversations quite quick enough.
You talk about collaboration and how does that work when we think about leasing companies and manufacturers and hauliers and all the wide network of collaborators within the industry? How do you see that all coming together under you?
I mean, it won't happen overnight. I think we've got to do it. And a part of it's linked to the trust thing that we said earlier. If people won't come and talk to us, collaboration becomes difficult. So it's looking very widely, I think, and we're talking to other parts of government who are interested. We're talking to trade bodies. We're talking to other people to try to find common cause, to try and find things that we can do together where it's a win-win situation. So there's a lot of it about just going out, touting our wares, saying, what are you trying to do? Can we work together? And that, for me, is a big part. But I think, again, it's what do I need the industry to do? I need the industry to be compliant, frankly, and to follow the rules, but then to feed back to us if there's a gap or a mismatch or something that's difficult or something where regulation might need changing a bit. I want it to be a two-way conversation and a dialogue so that people are trying to be compliant, but at the same time we're getting feedback back and able to improve. And I think if everybody does their part and it truly is a circular conversation, I think that will be good.
Sounds good. Loveday, if I had a magic wand and I could grant you one wish today, what would that one wish be?
Oh gosh, I'd like to have got rid of the fear thing. I would love to change the culture so that DVSA are genuinely seen by everybody as helping and facilitating industry to do better.
That's brilliant. That's good. Thank you very much indeed.